All right. We need to talk about this leader right here. Not because this is meta breaking or you know, whatever reason people talk about leaders these days, all right? We simply need to talk about this leader because I don't understand her ability. And depending on what the outcome of the rules end up like what the rules end up saying might determine if this deck is going to be very, very, very interesting or it's going to be absolute fucking garbage. All right. So let's head into this video. All right. We have a leader here, Boa Hancock, releases in OP-07. And her ability is very simple, right? It says once per turn, your turn, whenever a character leaves the field because of your own abilities, you may draw a card as long as you have 5 or less cards in hand. It's a very, very simple ability in the way that, you know, it doesn't really need rules to, you know, tell them, hey, this is how your card works. No, it's a very simple card. But I know from experience that sometimes cards don't mean what they say. And I'm going to bring up an example, all right? We have OP-05 Sabo, the leader. Let me just find him here real quick, all right? We have... Oh god, this is going to lag out like crazy. Ignore these cards up here. We're going to talk about them soon. But we have this Sabo right here. And this Sabo says the same thing, right? But on opponent's turn. But it says once per turn, right? You can save a character if it gets KO'd by giving it minus 1000 power. The thing about Sabo that is not included in the text is that the once per turn doesn't mean one character. It means one instance of getting KO'd. For example, if you play Sabo and your opponent plays the where is he? The 4-cost Lucci from set 5. This one right here. The one that says on play KO one cost character and 1 2-cost characters. All right. He KOs 2 characters, but in one instance, which means that Sabo's effect can save both of them, even though Sabo's effect clearly states once per turn. All right. So if we take that into consideration with Boa's effect, if 2 characters were to be removed at the same time by the same effect, would she draw 2 cards? All right. And let's say 5 characters were removed by one effect. Will she draw 5 cards? Right? So that is basically the point of this video, right? Is to see what potential Boa has depending on what the rules say and what kind of weaknesses she has if it doesn't, and see the different types of ways that maybe this ruling could go and come in handy. So we have a couple options here, right? Looking at the different cards that we have already, we have 4 different cards that remove, at least in blue, that remove multiple cards in one instance, right? So we're going to start with OP-04 10-cost Kaido. This is a very simple effect. It says on play, bounce a 8-cost or less and 1 3-cost or less back to the owner's hand. Very strong character. If you play this and you have 5 cards in hand, you first bounce a character and then you bounce another character, right? And then Boa Hancock's leader ability would activate. And since you have 5 cards in hand and 2 characters were removed, you would draw 2 cards, right? And that would bring you to 7. But let's say that after you draw the first card, the rules say, you have 6 cards in hand now, so you may not draw another card. That's bad for Boa, right? I don't think that's how it's going to play out, though. I think the way they are going to do Boa is that when the effect activates, in that one instance, her effect activates, And if you meet the requirements, you have 5 or less cards in hand, you get to draw cards by how many characters were removed. Just like how Sabo would work. You can save as many characters as you'd like if they were KO'd in the same instance. Right? So the thing would be, right, you play Kaido, you bounce 2 characters, her effect activates. If you have 5 or less cards in hand, you would draw 2 cards. All right? That's how I hope it turns out. And that's what we're going to be basing this video on, because I really hope that's true. And I do think that is how it's going to be working. So that makes her good, right? That makes Boa really good. Because all of a sudden, this card becomes a bounce 2 characters and draw 2 cards. It's like that perfect balance of 10 cost Kaido and the other 10 cost Kaido that draws 4, right? So I think that would be really strong. And we're going to talk about these other cards as well. Get into those. So we have this card called It's a Waste of Human Life, which is frankly a waste of a fucking card. Until now, you have never seen this card see any play whatsoever. This was supposed to be the anti-Zoro, anti-law card that would disrupt the meta, but turns out we didn't need this card for Law and Zoro to stop Z-play. This card is an 8-cost event, which has the effect, activate main, place all 3-cost or lower characters on the bottom of their owner's deck. Then, every player discards cards from their hand until they only have 5 cards left in their hand, right? So the way this would work is that you'd go on 8 Dawn, you'd play this card. All of the 3-cost or lower characters would remove. Let's say you remove 4 characters. 4 characters, that's OP, right? Then every player would discard cards until they have 5 cards in their hand, which means Boa's effect is now in function. This card finishes resolving, Boa effect activates. And now she gets to draw 4 cards because that's how many characters were removed due to this effect. And now she's at 9. That's strong. An 8-cost card saying, hey, we're going to remove all of the low-cost characters on the board. And like, we're going to discard cards from your hand until you have less cards. You know, you're going to discard cards from your hand. We're going to remove cards from the board. And then, thanks to Boa, I'm going to draw a shit ton of cards. This card could be game-changing if Boa works like I think she does. All right? You're telling me that a waste of human life is gonna see play. This is insane. Nobody ever thought this would happen, I swear to God. This card has so much potential. All right? But we're gonna move on from this card. And we're going to move on to whatever this card is and whatever this card is, okay? This card is literally Lucci on an event. It says bottom deck a 1-cost and bottom deck a 2-cost. And as with Kaido, this is just a, hey, I'm going to remove 2 cards. And that's going to let Boa draw 2 cards. Problem with this is this actually specifies your opponent's characters, so you wouldn't be able to remove your own characters as like a way to get around that, unfortunately. But it would still be just a 2-cost event that theoretically lets you draw 2 cards, assuming that your opponent has a 1-cost and 2-cost on the board, which isn't super unusual. I mean, there's a lot of decks that play searchers, right? And if you have multiple searchers out, boom, that's a 2-cost, draw 2, and bottom deck 2 cards. Very, very, very strong still. But yeah, definitely interesting. Moving on to the last card that I want to talk about in this video, which is Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. I don't know if that's the correct translation, but that's what we're going with. This card says bottom deck 2 characters that cost 6 or less, right? So you can bottom deck 2 6 costs, and like every other card in this video, it's 1 instance, 2 characters. Hopefully, that means Boa draws 2 cards. So the point I'm trying to make here is that if Boa works like Sabo, and she actually lets you draw multiple cards, even though her effect says once per turn, it could be really strong. Because it would activate all these cards, right? Instead of just playing Houndblaze and drawing one card, you can now play this card and draw two. And instead of this card just being a bounce, 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 it's now a bounce two and draw two. It's really strong, right? And then obviously this card is just so interesting and an actual game changer if Boa works the way I think she does. Because mind you, this is not, hey, bottom deck all of your opponent's characters. No, this is bottom decking your own characters as well. So you can play a bunch of, you know, weak one drops and like stuff that makes you, like, gains you an advantage. Like you can play Perona, sure. You can play Perona. You can play Kaya. You can play Kaya. You can play. There's a lot of them, all right? There's a lot of one card. You can play Searchers. You can play the Tashigi. You can play the new Sengoku Searcher. Like, you can... Like, Tashigi, obviously, OP, because you can search these here. You can play the Who's Who Searcher to search out your Kaidos and stuff. And then, just fucking drop this, bottom deck your entire board, which is 5 characters, right? And then, hopefully, 1 or 2, maybe even 3 characters off your opponent's board. And then all of a sudden, you're in this board state where you now have, what, 12 cards in hand, potentially? 12, 13 cards. Your opponent's at 5. And that's just, what? What? This could be crazy. If Boa works like this, and I need to know right now how she works. I know the set is like a week away or something, but we need to know like right now how Boa works so I can get on constructing this deck as soon as possible. And if she doesn't work out like this, if she doesn't work like I want her to, and she's actually just hey, no, when a card is removed, you get to draw 1 card. That would be unfortunate. It would make Boa so much less hype. Boa already has no hype. She's got an ass of support. She's basically printed just so Doflamingo can get more support. So I truly do hope that this is the way Boa works. And it would make me so happy and so excited for her. And yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to talk about. Just a quick discussion video about the effects of Boa and her rulings. But hopefully you've enjoyed. And when we find out if this is how Boa works, you can bet there will be a video on her with a deck list trying to take full advantage of her leader ability, and it's going to be so fun and something to look forward to in set 7. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye.